Oh boy, hey everybody, it's your good YouTubing buddy, Waifu Selector, the only fair human on earth, and we've gotta talk about PlayStation, because PlayStation had a plan. They've had the plan for a while. They've attempted to execute the plan. However, the plan is not going as planned. You know the plan, it was the live service plan. PlayStation's plot to push into the live service arena with some force. And yet, for a while now, we can see it not going as well as they'd likely hoped. So much so that they cut their initial 12 games in half way back when, and then cut some more after that. But still, the good boys at Sony PlayStation seem unwaveringly dedicated to the pursuit of live service. Why is that? Well, that's what we're here to talk about, so let's get into it. And remember, if you end up enjoying, to give the video a like and consider subscribing. Thanks in advance. Now let's do this. Now, I know we're all aware of the disaster that was Concord, one of the biggest and most costly gaming flops ever, but I'm sure by now you're also aware that the studio responsible, Firewalk, has been shut down behind that failure. Not a surprising development, but it is an unfortunate addition to the tumultuous string of events that PlayStation's live service plan has suffered. I mean, when you look at Sony and live service together, you don't see an incredibly inspiring road or history, unfortunately. Destruction All-Stars, the car combat destruction derby game that launched early in the PS5 life cycle, it came out and flopped, ultimately ending up more forgettable than anything. However, that predates the announcement of the Big 12 live service games plan, even if it was likely a part of it. We've only recently really seen this plan start to kick into gear for PlayStation, and it's quite rocky. For one, they clearly overcommitted or overinvested based on the fact that, like I said before, they cut that 12 game plan down to 6, not something you'd do if everything was smooth and on track. And among the deleted games were some of their biggest IP and licenses, like The Last of Us and Spider-Man, now both having canceled live service multiplayer games that were fairly deep into production. Then there's Foam Stars, which we could argue shouldn't be included because in truth it's only about a half L for PlayStation, seeing as how it was not a first-party game, but rather a Square Enix game. But still, Sony did put money into it and pay for exclusivity. And of course the game did flop. Then, of course, there is the worst of the bunch, Concord. A huge, enormous, expensive failure that not only caused the loss of hundreds of millions of dollars, but also the closure of the developing studio, not to mention the closure of the mobile development studio Neon Koi, that Sony very likely also rethought and shut down as a result of Concord's failure. So yeah, a lot of rough stuff happening for PlayStation's plan, but within all of the flops and failures, there was a beacon of encouraging hope for Sony in the form of Helldivers 2. And this is where we can start to look at our primary question. Why is PlayStation still determined to continue down this path? The short answer is money. I mean, isn't it always? But we're not here for the short answer. So, money how? Well, the thing about live service games is if you can make one hit and catch on, it basically becomes a money printer. Some more than others, but the money required to be profitable is relative to the cost of maintaining and updating the game. Look at something like Smite. The fucking game's been around forever. It's really nowhere near as big as things like Apex and Destiny, but it also doesn't cost that much. It's a cheap ass game that has bugs in it right now that it had when the game launched. And that game's just been cruising losing for over a decade. Now, obviously, it's hard to get your live service game to land, especially nowadays. But the pros of one actually really seriously landing are so huge that one with a lot of money, say Sony PlayStation perhaps, may be willing to fire off some misses. Even if it takes them 10 tries, I think they'd find it worth it if the game that hit like Apex Legends, hit like OG Overwatch, or the motherlode Fortnite. And let's remember, Helldivers didn't fail. It did very well. Helldivers 2 was a AA budgeted game sold for $40 and was only expected to make a mild profit at best, but it sold 12 million units. So although the idea of all live service is to live forever and Helldivers may not, it's done far more than it needed for PlayStation to let the devs at Arrowhead try again, if need be. And that's the thing. PlayStation can get their tries back by just not failing hard. Helldivers 2 may fail in the sense that it doesn't live forever as intended, but its early monetary success earns them another chance to succeed at living forever in the future. Because for PlayStation, that is the ultimate goal, the eternal money printer. Now, on the other end, they cannot afford to continue to fail in the way that Concord did, because that is not a get your chance back failure. In fact, it's worse than just a standard failure. You played Baldur's Gate 3. This is a critical failure. A failure of this size and in this way actively eats up additional tries that you were gonna use. Concord flopped so hard that it took the money you were gonna use to try again with it. That cannot continue to happen, because if it does, that's when this live service plan really comes to an end, and not a pretty one. I'd wager that if something similarly expensive happens again with another live service attempt, then PlayStation will back off of their live service dream. But as of right now, they're simply shifting things around with future attempts to ensure another Concord doesn't happen. Because I know I talked about what sounds like a whole lot of failings for PlayStation earlier in the video, but when you actually boil it down to their shipped first-party live service offerings, it's 3 games: Destruction All-Stars, Helldivers 2, and Concord. Failure, success, abysmal failure. And that's not quite enough to deter Sony from the major success they seek, because the benefits of that major success can cement them for the foreseeable future by providing a nearly endless fountain of profits. All PlayStation is doing is gambling. They're trying to hit a jackpot, and they'll probably want to stop before the losing really affects the company, but right now, they clearly feel they have enough superfluous funds to keep on betting. I gotta say, this saga has been fascinating to watch though, and it's not done unfolding. We're gonna get an even clearer look at things in the not too far off future, I think, with the new IP Fair games and the Horizon multiplayer game on the way. It's an uphill battle for sure. As I've said, live service games are hard, but we'll see what else PlayStation has to offer. It's gonna be especially difficult for Fair games because it's a new IP, and as I established when talking about Concord in other videos, people just don't want this stuff from PlayStation. Not new IPs, I mean, but they don't want live service from PlayStation, from Sony. They're known for single player. People feel like, do single player. We don't care what live service games you're offering. We don't care if they're good. We don't care if they're okay. We don't fucking care. We don't want it. And then being a new IP just doesn't help. And Fair games, we still don't know much about it. Maybe that'll change at the Game Awards or something. I mean, we know it's a heist game, but that cinematic trailer really didn't get anyone hype, me included. It looked kind of whatever, but I'll wait to see actual gameplay. I know PlayStation is doing all they can to make sure the narrative around this game shifts and doesn't end up like Concord. They've been holding surveys and new internal play tests to try and really make Fair games something people won't trash on site, but ultimately it's out of their hands, and there's a strong likelihood that everyone decides that they hate it the moment there's a gameplay reveal. Unfortunate, but not far-fetched. Obviously, Horizon stands a better chance. It's an existing IP, one of PlayStation's highest selling, by the way, and it wasn't canceled with The Last of Us and Spider-Man. So maybe there's really something there. Maybe they feel like it's a more organic transition into multiplayer, or maybe they feel like their gameplay loop is more sustainable, more fun at its core, who knows. I honestly can't wait to finally get a look at this one. I'm expecting some sort of take on Monster Hunter, but I'm interested to see exactly what they go for. I know it had those leaks a year or so ago, but I'm more interested to see the actual game in a state where PlayStation is confident in it. Regardless, bottom line is Sony and PlayStation aren't stopping the live service pursuit just yet, because they still currently stand to gain too much by landing just one of them. They still have funds to apply to that pursuit without hurting their bread and butter, the single player games. And when one of those two things changes, then the plan will end, but not before. So yeah, I guess that's it. I just find this all interesting. If you watched some of my videos on live service topics, you know I'm not really with the mob. I don't hate live service. I don't groan when something is multiplayer. It's not that big a deal. Some of them are good, some of them suck, just like with everything else. But witnessing a company try to break into something after dominating something else, break into multiplayer after dominating single player in this case, it's just interesting to watch. So, okay, be sure to tell me what you think down in the comments. Do you just want PlayStation to stop? Or do you hope they hit it big? Or do you not care at all? And are you at all interested in Fair Games or Horizon Online? Let me know. Also, be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed. It helps a lot. And until next time, I am Waifu Belector. I am just a normal guy. I like hentai. And I've said the term live service too many times today. Goodbye.